What up guys, welcome back to the channel and another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I create my dreamy like landscapes while I'm editing in Adobe Lightroom. The question I get a lot is how do I edit or how do I do this while I'm editing? So that is what I'm going to be answering today. I'm going to be showing you guys my whole process from start to finish on 2 photos from Montana. Alright, so as you guys can see here, we have one photo which is like a late afternoon scene in Glacier National Park. And we're gonna have another photo here that is an actual sunset in Glacier National Park. Alright, so for the first thing I usually do when I am going to be editing is I add dehaze in my photo. As you guys can see, that already adds quite a difference. It kind of just adds kind of that dreamy look that I get in all of my photos. I usually add between 30 and 40 just depending on the photo, and that's kind of how it looks. And then the second thing I usually do is add saturation, because as you guys know, my photos are very colorful. So as you can see, that is just the dehaze and saturation. That already is pretty different. And next I usually bring the highlights down, bring the whites down, and then bring the shadows up. Something you guys will notice throughout this video is that both of these photos are pretty underexposed. This is something I do when I shoot just so I can preserve like all the highlights up here, so I don't lose any of the details like in the clouds or anything like that, because I know I will be able to bring up these shadows in post while I'm editing. That is also why it is very important to shoot in RAW. Now for this one, I'm probably gonna actually bring the exposure up a little bit. I think I underexposed this one a little too much in camera. It kept the clouds well, but I think I could have exposed it a little more. So go ahead and do that, and then add a touch of contrast. I usually don't add that much contrast in my photos just to keep that balanced look that I like. And then this one is looking a little purple to me, so I usually do add a little green. So that one starts at +6, so I will probably go down to maybe -1. Nothing super crazy. Most of these adjustments are going to be kind of subtle, and they all just kind of add up into the overall edit of the photo. As far as tone curve goes, I don't usually add anything too crazy in this either. It's kind of a super subtle little S curve. Usually does the job for me. And then I usually clip the end up here. So as you guys can see, if you bring that way down, it messes with the whites. So I'll bring that down just a hair, just like that. And then hue, saturation, and luminance. This is a pretty useful tab in here. If you guys don't know what that is, hue is kind of like the shade of the color, saturation is like saturation of the color, and then luminance is going to be like the brightness of a color. So for example, if I go down on the blue, you can see that changes the entire photo. It is super easy to, I don't want to say ruin, because like everyone edits their photos differently, but you can change a photo quite a bit using these. So I'll probably bring the blue up just a hair, maybe play with the blue saturation. Blue is the predominant color in this, so be careful with adding the blue. I'll probably actually go back up and add a little warmth to it. Something I also do is when I go through like the first pass, I usually go almost all the way down like the menu here, but then I do go back up and add adjustments once I get through the other editing tools. We go about right there. And then color grading, this is another huge piece while you're editing. I usually add like kind of like a teal blue to my highlights. So that is what the color blue is. If you guys want to see like what color you're adding, just go ahead and slide it up to 100. It shows you what color you're adding and what areas of the photo it'll change. This is a very helpful tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that at about 20, I think. And also while editing, if you hit this little switch right here, it takes off just the edit or just the tool in this tab right here. So this is just the color grading. So that's just from the highlights right there. In midtones, I'll probably go with a little more of a yellow look. Obviously not that intense. This is gonna be another super subtle right here. Probably about like that. And then shadows, I'm probably just gonna leave the shadows alone, to be honest. And then another thing, I forgot to do this, but always do this. It just takes off like the vignette from your lens. As you can see, when you shoot at a wide focal length, sometimes you can get a little vignette in the corner up here. I shoot a lot of my photos at 24 millimeters. So there is a little bit, not as much as some others, like if you're shooting at like 16 or something like that. And then something else I love to do is just add a little grain. I usually add about 25. Just to give the photo a little more texture, a little more character. And this is obviously a super personal choice on here. Like, you don't have to add grain, but it's just something I like to do. So that's the before, that is the after. And one thing I add on almost every photo is a graduated filter. So I'll go ahead and hit M on my keyboard, bring this little screen up right here, and then I'll just drag down the top. And all the red you see right here, just gonna be what the filter is changing. So go ahead and add just a little more contrast, make the sky pop a little more. Bring the shadows up, just to bring the shadows up on like the mountains right here and this one over here. And play with the highlights maybe a little bit. Try bringing the highlights up and the whites down. It's too much. Probably about right there. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. If I wasn't recording this, I might go back and change a few more things. But overall, I think this is a good base edit on here. All right, so for this next photo here, this is also gonna be from Glacier National Park. As you guys can see, this photo is extremely underexposed. Like, this is already kind of blown out still, and this is super underexposed, but I just wanted to keep the details in the clouds up here and the mountain face right here. So what I'll do is go ahead and add the dehaze. You guys are probably thinking, Alex, that's blowing out the sky even more, but don't worry, we will fix that here in a second. Saturation, get some of the colors back. Bring the highlights down to flatten the sky out. Bring them shadows up. This is why it is super important to shoot in RAW, because when you shoot in RAW, you can underexpose like this and still get pretty good details in the shadows. So once I take the shadows up, I'll bring the whites down a little bit. I'll probably warm this photo up just a hair. About right there, add a little contrast, just like that. And then tone curve, like I said, is gonna be a super, super, super subtle S curve. Like I could probably get away with not even putting tone curve on here just because it is so subtle, but it's those little subtle adjustments that can take your edit to like the next level and kind of just add your own touch to it. So this photo has a lot of different colors, like there's some greens, there's gonna be a lot of yellows down here and in the sky, some blue up here. So I'll go ahead and play with the orange. Probably go about right there. Just adds a little more color to the clouds and this part of the mountain right here. Try that luminance. Bring that up just a little bit. Hue, I like making my oranges a little more red. So I'll probably go about right there. So if you go negative on the orange, it goes more towards like a reddish color. And then I will go to the blue because of this up here, and it'll probably affect this right here as well. Yeah, so add just a little tiny bit of blue to that. And I'll probably leave the hue alone. Add maybe barely any luminance, and then color grading. So go ahead and add the bluish tint to the highlights again. I'm gonna add less on this just because like the overall feel of the image is going to be a sunset and is going to be warm, so I don't want to like overpower that with like blue like that. But I will just add a little tiny bit, probably about 10 right there. Midtones, I'm going to go for the yellow and orange again. Just kind of exaggerate the already like warmth feeling in the photo. All I do when I edit is I try to get it like best I can in camera and then kind of just exaggerate what I saw while I was there or what is already in the photo. So I don't try to make the photo something it's not, you know what I mean, or like the scene, but I kind of just try to add my own little touch to it and kind of just enhance everything that's already there. And then shadows, I'll probably leave the shadows alone. I'm actually gonna go back up here, bring the blacks up, then maybe the shadows down again just a little bit. I think the tint is good in this already. And then, like I said before, I will take this off. This is something I do at the beginning, but for some reason I forgot on both of these photos. And then, like I said before, zoom in a little bit. I usually add about 25 to 30 grains. So for this, I'll just add 25, just add a little texture to everything. There we go. Spacebar, zoom back out. And then for this one, I definitely need to add a graduated filter on here. My Mac is not liking this for some reason. give me a little spinning wheel, but we'll go ahead and add some contrast just to make the sky pop, mountains pop a little more. And I'm actually just gonna warm this up just so the sky gets a little more warm. I'll probably add a little purple tint to the sky as well, just because it was looking a little green there. And bring that up, bring the shadows up a touch. Whites maybe down a little bit. I'm actually gonna add a little saturation to the top half of the image through this filter, just because I think this is already saturated enough down here. Let's go ahead and do that. So this is with the filter. So without the filter, as you can see, that changes the photo a bunch. This is why I have mentioned these in the past, and I will keep preaching on this. These things can really just bring your photos to the next level and add your own touch to it. And I'm gonna actually add another filter right here. Hit M, I'm gonna get a little radial right here. Just on this corner just to kind of exaggerate the light coming through right here. So I'll bring that like that. Rotate it down to the side a little bit. Make it a little wider. And let's see, maybe add a little more dehaze right here. Yeah, I'm actually going to bring this down and shorten this up because it is not up here at all. Drag this down here. That way it gets more of this little valley right here instead of the top of the sky. Rotate it a hair. Add a little more contrast. Maybe bring up the exposure a touch. Nothing too crazy. I don't want to make it like look like I necessarily added this photo where it's like super noticeable, but just to kind of change this little area just enough. So that is before the filters and that is after the filters. And yeah, there we go. There are the two edited photos. So here is the first one we did right there. That'll add a little afternoon scene. Excuse me, I can't talk. And then we have this late sunset scene right here. All right guys, so that's gonna wrap up the video. If you can't tell, it's getting a little warm in here, so I'm gonna hop up out of here. We'll cool off a little bit, but I hope that kind of just helped you see like what goes through my mind while I'm editing these photos and my process on how I do it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, go ahead and comment down below. I'm gonna be doing my best to reply on all the comments. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, so you guys already know what to do so you don't miss any of my future videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.